Hello, everyone. Dave Bush here. Kansas Sports HQ, Episode 8, kicking off. Let's start off the morning right. Sheldon, Sean, how are you guys doing today?
Phenomenal.
Fantastic.
Oh man. That's what, Wednesday? Here we are. We're about to hit the backside of the week into Halloween. Sean, tell me what you got to the left of you there. I see some pizza.
Oh, yeah. Sheldon picked up some Casey's pizza.
Oh man, kind of the heartbeat of this podcast every now and then, yeah?
Well, the heartbeat of me most of I frequent there quite a bit. West Street, Casey's.
That one was the one that's over close to Banks' school. Pretty good.
What's that, 29th and Ridge or whatever, Tyler?
I cheated and had a piece before you guys got here. So.
Yeah, that's all right.
But
man,
I evenly
I understand.
distributed it.
I
Evenly
understand.
got it for everyone.
So I had about 5 pieces of that over the weekend, just on the travel, on the road. You know, that's the go-to.
That's fair.
Get you some fuel. You're in the Midwest, and you just want to start your drive out right before you drive 7 hours.
Yeah.
Unless you have bowel issues.
Oh man.
It's all right. It's worth it.
Then you just add an extra
It's-
stop.
Yeah, just an extra stop. You find your extra Casey's to
Yeah.
make that
Yeah.
stop, per se.
Oh, dude, that's one thing, especially like in college, because I went to college in Iowa. A lot of guys from outside the Midwest coming in, and they're like, gas station pizza, man. What? I'm like, just try it, pal.
Right.
Just
Just give it a shot.
Just try it.
I remember as a little guy having the taco pizza one time, and I was like, "Is this is life?
No,
this is
that's-
life." And
that's
then
good too.
the breakfast pizza is unbeatable.
I don't think I've ever had anything but breakfast pizza there.
Yeah,
They have taco pizza.
They
there?
have a full menu. If
they
you
really
have the
do.
Casey's
I
app,
did ask the lady, I was like, is this cheaper than buying a full pizza? And she was like, no, I think that is going to be a little bit cheaper because it said 2 for $6 on the door.
sure.
And so I got 6 pieces. So I was like, okay, $18, whatever. I was like, I could probably get a full
they do-
pizza.
It's like 16 to
But
18
she only
bucks.
charged
for-
$15.
Oh,
Yeah.
nice.
I was like, maybe she gave me one for
Plus,
free.
those are technically mega slices. I'm kind of an expert, and
Oh,
those
okay.
are technically mega slices,
Uh-huh.
right? Because if they make you a pizza,
Why don't you
they-
hand me one of the mega slices?
Oh,
Mace?
dang! Get
they
in
cut,
there.
They cut it
yeah.
a little smaller.
I would like just some mega slice on my desk.
Oh, so we're gonna just snack here. Everybody just.
Slice. For the
Everybody
viewers
just.
that can see the video.
Sausage or bacon, Dave?
Oh,
How do I get this in
sausage,
here?
please?
Oh, yeah.
Oh man, with the jalapenos on it too. So we start our day off right with a little bit of Casey's pizza. For those of you that are lactose intolerant, just enjoy it while it lasts.
Vis-a-vis Dave.
Oh yeah. So cheers to everybody. Breakfast, Casey's pizza.
I need to get my buddy Matt on here because he does all those product reviews.
Mm-hmm.
We need to bring him in once a week and have him bring like just an array of, have him on as a weekly guest or something, and have him bring he finds a bunch of random stuff. Like, it's really, because he goes around all the stores and just takes items, whatever. Well, didn't take them, hopefully, but pays for those items legally and then does product reviews on them. But
Nice.
we need to
nice.
have him up here one time and see if we can just do some taste
good old
testing with him.
Hartman.
Yeah.
Yeah. So quick recap of last night. Toronto takes ties it up in the World Series, and then lots of other fun stuff happening. Not a big NHL guy, but I haven't seen many feeds on that lately. So maybe start tracking the Wichita Thunder a little bit just to have a little point here. And then of course Halloween. I believe there's going to be some good football going on for the high schools and things like that.
Those games are early this week. They play on Thursday.
They do? Okay.
Pappas went off again last Friday.
Yeah, 3 touchdowns.
That's
kind of a
it. No big deal.
small
You know what
yeah.
his yards were?
230.
Yeah, on 12 carries.
On
12
12 carries. Geez, yeah. So crazy. And then tomorrow night, I guess, is our Friday Night Lights per se, due to the holiday. But hey, that's okay because Halloween,
It's
right?
crazy they're moving games around for how well, or is it the first round?
I think they always do that.
Really?
I'm pretty sure it's almost always every year they play on that Thursday because of the weekend and kids are. I think they get that weekend off school wise.
Of course they do.
I'm
Oh,
not sure.
What are they?
We'd have to ask
Kids
an
don't
athlete.
go to school anymore.
Right. So
be able to get
Yeah.
So episode 8, we're going to focus on Wichita Parisi Speed School. And for many of you that may not know, Sheldon Howell, owner of Wichita Parisi Speed School, Sean Cutler, program director of Wichita Parisi Speed School, and we're excited to hear about what
Dave
that
Bush,
is.
producer and marketing.
It's
Operations outreach, whatever you want to call me today,
operations, designing.
for Wichita Parisi. I mean, we're all rocking some cool stuff by SBS Apparel,
There you go.
and you know that's just a fun avenue that we travel down. Maybe we'll dig into that a little bit. Not a big shout out for that. It's just a side hustle for all the fun things that we like to do and be able to give away. Outside of that, you know, I'm going to hand the reins over to Sheldon for Parisi and give us some backstory on that. We've kind of got a glimpse of it here and there, but let's talk about the story that brought it all together. I know Brian Patton was involved. That created a huge relationship for you. Meeting Bill Parisi, the man, the myth, the legend. And then, you know, we can always give a shout out to Coach Chad.
Yep.
Mr. Coy, thank you so much for kicking all of our asses during the certification process, and you know, it's a great relationship to have. And let's move on to Parisi stuff, Sheldon.
Yeah, man, I'm excited to talk about it. We've, you know, a little bit in the stories that we've kind of, because ultimately, kind of all these first episodes is just kind of laying the foundation of all of the stuff and kind of going through all the different pieces that have brought us to this today. So, you know, the Parisi story, it's kind of been hit on a couple times, but really the Parisi story, KCLB story really started right at the same times. 2015 was when I kind of came into the fold with Coach Dukes and Brian, and at the same time, all of the, you know, KCLB stuff started rocking and rolling. They were like, hey, let's do, you know, this speed school thing. And I was like, what's that? You know, like, explain that to me a little bit. And neither of them knew what it was either. I think they were just in the mindset of like, hey, let's bring this thing in here that's a little bit different. And, you know, we know that there's not one here, and let's just try to, you know, make it all work. So I was like, okay, how are we going to do it? You know, like, what's the plan? And they literally were like, yeah, we don't really have that either. And I was just like, okay, this is going to be fun. You know, because I didn't go to school for any of that. You know, I went to college. I got my degrees in business communication, business administration. I think liberal science was my associate's degree. I think that's what every college athlete's associate's degree is.
liberal arts.
Yeah, liberal arts, liberal science. But anyway, so first week, you know, I remember I was sitting with Brian. Brian showed up and gives me this book that's like probably this thick, and is like, hey, man, you know, they're going to be here on Monday and we're going to start our certification. And I was like, oh, okay. Like, well, what are kind of the details on that? And he's like, I don't really know. He's like, they're just going to be here for a few days. We'll figure it out. And I'm like, okay. So I start reading this book, and it's just, you know, terminology that I've heard, I've kind of got a little bit of a sense of, but like not necessarily like I know this stuff, you know, like I've heard it, you know, in passing, whatever, in sports, whatever, but it was relatively brand new information. And so then I think I had that book for 2 days, maybe 3 days to kind of study over it and kind of learn it. And, you know, I was also working and doing all my other stuff at that time. So I didn't really know how much time I needed to invest into the thing. And I drastically underestimated what that was going to look like in that first certification. And so then we pull up, and Chad Coy is here, Eric Mitchell's here, which are two master trainers inside of Parisi, great individuals. Shout out for Eric Mitchell. He just actually became one of the top booksellers on Amazon. He just the Tsunami Effect, or the Coaching Tsunami Effects. I don't know the exact title, but I think it's the Tsunami Effect. But he's an amazing guy, big time motivational guy, motivational leader, fun to talk to. He's somebody who has been doing what we do much longer than how long we've been doing it. So it's pretty fun to watch his success and all the different things. Sean, actually, you and I went to Philly. That was his facility that we went to. He just was not there on the off chance that he wasn't available to meet. But so Eric was there, great guy. Chad, who's kind of been dubbed as our like facility dad, or grandpa now, really, because we've all gotten older. But He was kind of the lead in our cert, and he was kind of the main guy running everything. And it was a 3-day physical test, and basically just teaching the program, the Parisi program, and what we do here. The entire group that I was with is not the group that we have here now, and so it was not only was I meeting coaches for the first time, other than one person, I was meeting everybody else essentially for the first time that was going to be a part of this team and this staff. And so it was a lot of blending these personalities, trying to figure out who's going to do what, and I'm not saying Brian and them didn't have some sort of a plan, but the plan was really loose. Like the plan was like, yeah, we're just going to make this thing happen. And I'm like, okay, like sounds good. And so we go through the certification. One of the guys got kicked out of the certification because he got caught cheating. I don't know if he kicked out's the right word.
Tell me how he was caught cheating.
Dude
was it by the book or was it during the physical test?
It was one, they couldn't retain the physical. There was 2 of them in that cert that could not do any of the physical like stuff. Like it was really, there was probably 3 of them that couldn't, but 2 of them that stood out like tremendously. And I didn't know these people, so I was just like, well, maybe they have a different role, maybe they're just here to learn this and then do something else. But then it came to the testing, and then those 2 people essentially got they didn't get kicked out, that's my word. They got removed from the room, and they like got talked to because it was obvious that they were like helping each other and they were like cheating on this test. And I'm sitting here looking, I'm like, dude, we're freaking adults, dude. Like what is going on? Like you guys just went through a 3-day cert and you can't even remotely try to do this on your own. I was like, what?
What's the definition of speed?
It's just, yeah. Well, it wasn't even that. Like they were just like sitting here, like helping each other on the test, and we're all in a room together, it's just, and I was just like, whatever. But so it is what it is. But anyway, so we end up doing that certification, and that certification was hard. And so on one hand, I'm like, yeah, it was tough, like the book side of it was just, you had to remember it and you had to study it and you had to be involved on that side. But like the actual like training portion of it, that was some of the hardest stuff that I had ever gone through. And when I finished up that certification originally, it was a light bulb just went off in my head. Like there was just I had so many things that were just pinging. And that was like, dude, this is something that 1, I'd never been taught before. 2, I felt physically better when I finished with the cert, right? Like I actually felt a difference in my body. And then 3, it was like, man, like I see true purpose behind this. Like I actually feel like I am involved in something here that I could be excited about doing all the time. And it wasn't just like that mild bit of excitement where it's something new. Like it like touched me like deep in my soul, like to where I was like, man, this is something that could be a really big thing and could help a lot of people. So we go through that certification.
Wait. With what you just said, like we've discussed like the core values of different things that bring us to where we are today. You said, like it touched you to your core and you can help a lot of people. So what are some of those core values that you still have that today, but I'm saying like what was like the main core value from the Parisi side of things that really made it jump out to you?
Yeah. Well, what I felt during that certification was there was a lot, but the 2 major things for me was, number 1, it was the physical side of it, right? So, playing at all the levels that I played at with all the different coaches that I've had, all the different teams, all the different stuff, the physical side of it was like, man, why have I never done this stuff before, right? Like, why have I not been exposed to this style of coaching where they're this attention oriented, right? The attention to detail, the practicality of it, the applicable portions of what we do, right? Like that alone was like a mind-blowing experience. But then understanding, one of the main principles and something that hit me when we were doing that, Chad said, the reason that we're so hard on you guys is because you guys are going to have to go and coach kids. And he was like, and this principle has stuck with me for the rest of my life. He's like, if you're going to ask children to essentially do this, but yet you don't live by example and you don't feel it and you don't understand what it's like, how do you expect to be able to coach anybody? Now, somewhat of a loaded statement, right? There's definitely coaches out there that can't physically do certain things anymore or couldn't or whatever that still understand the principles and the knowledge base and that type of stuff. But in the general sense, like it made a lot of sense to me, right? Like in the general sense, I'm like, man, you're right. Like, it's easy to be hard on people. But if you want them to, if you want to truly know what they're going through and being able to motivate them and coach them through things, like you got to be in it too. Like you have to live by that example. And so that really stuck with me in that aspect. And then, just understanding my experiences through sports and understanding that I didn't get this type of attention, not ever, like not once, right? Like and we all kind of grew up in the same relative kind of time frame in coaching anyway, little bit of age gaps here, but we lived in that hardcore type, just old school, bigger, faster,
Yeah.
stronger, right? Like, and that's just what we grew up in. And so running was punishment, right? And
Yes.
running was the conditioning, right? So everything that we did around running, we just all grew up hating it. Like we just didn't enjoy doing it. Although we also knew on the other hand that it was a necessity. Like we knew that it was a piece of sports that we were going to have to do. So, and I'm not saying that's completely changed, right? Like there is definitely pieces there. But for us, it was just a different mentality. And then when I worked with these guys, I felt like I got a better workout than I had ever gotten in my entire life. I was doing way less stuff, but then at the end of it, I was faster than I ever was. And
Sure.
that was the part where I was like, whoa, like, hold on here. Like, so you're telling me if I'm running right now, which I was a couple years removed from playing at that point in time, I was still in good shape. I was, I was moving around all the time, still playing, we were playing softball, like still doing stuff, right? Like, so I was still lifting all the time. Like it's still in good shape, probably not 100% playing shape, but I would say that I was, 85% or so. Like I was up there. And I was running faster than I ever ran in high school, ever ran in college. And I started thinking to myself, like, this don't make sense. Like, why is this? Like, what? And then it just all like hit me like a ton of bricks where it was like, well, dude, you finally got taught how to run the right way. Somebody took the time to make you more efficient while you were out there doing it. And then I understood the proper form and technique, and then it all clicked, right? So then it's like, wow, what if I would have known this when I was 12?
Oh yeah.
What if I would have had the time and the attention spent on me to correct these things when I was coming through, middle school into high school before I had even decided that baseball was going to be my sport? What if I would have been a better athlete at that time and then football became important to me or, whatever? Like there would have just been more options and more avenues. And I was fast, right? Like and I ran natural speed, like just raw running,
Zooming.
like I was quick and, I ran a 6'8" coming out of high school. And then after this, when I got done doing all this, I ran a 6'4", 60. It just didn't track. Like, it just didn't make sense to me.
Thanks for clarifying that.
Yeah, it was insane.
You're
You know
running
what
a
I mean?
6'4" 40.
legit,
Woo!
It's legit.
Yeah,
But
like
baseball wise, you're
yeah,
60.
no, it was a 60, and it was laser time, and I was just like, "What?" Like, like it was crazy. I mean, my 5'10" 5 time. I looked at that yesterday. My best one was under a 4.1 laser time. Like, if I would have ran, and granted, I wasn't going to run that type of speed when I was coming out of high school. Obviously, I wasn't as strong as I was when I
Yeah.
did this. But if I would have had some of that stuff coming out of high school, speed is something that collegiate programs are always looking for. I would have had more options. I had a great career. I did a lot of cool things. Like I'm not knocking that at all. But I would have just been able to do more things with more speed. And then I would have I would have had a better understanding of strength as well, too, how to prioritize certain things, what type of plan to get put on, how to be on that plan, stay consistent, right? Like all the stuff that we talk about now. It's just there was a massive gap in information and education. And then we start, pinpointing all kinds of things along the way. It's just like there's a much better way of doing it. There's a better way of training youth athletes so that way they prioritize the right things when they have the amount of time to do the things that are necessary to compete at a high level. Whether they want to do that, whether the parents do, whether whatever, like that's a whole different combo. But there's a better way of doing it. So I come out of that certification just with like, dude, I'm on fire. Like, I'm like, dude, like I'm literally, and I truly believe this. I was like, dude, I'm going to change the world. Like, I'm going to change this place. Like, I'm going to change the people around me. Whether they understand it or not right now doesn't make a difference to me. But like, I am going to make a massive difference in my youth community, because that was part of my mission, right? That was part of the purpose. Was we don't have that here. We didn't have that. I didn't grow up in that. Like, people around here don't understand this stuff. Like, so it's just there was a massive amount of like, hey, like let's hit the ground running with this thing, and get after it. Now, preface that, like, I was just a coach, right? Like, so I just learned all this information. I wasn't an owner. I wasn't the program director. Like, I wasn't making any type of decisions. Like, I was just ready to get on the turf and ready to coach and ready to go. So then day one comes, and I'm like, all right, who are we working with? And it's like, well, we don't have anybody to work
Crickets.
with, right? Like, so there's nobody there. Yeah, exactly. And so, that's kind of when the business journey really kind of got off the ground. Was that, January of 2015 is kind of when we got certified and started and everything rolled. You fast forward, you got January, you got February, and then come March. So January and February, we've got no clients, we have no members, we have nobody in the system, right? And we had a program director, and that gal was supposed to be like doing that. Like, that was her job. She got certified with us, but her job was to bring people in, right? That's what Brian had hired her to do. And so then very early on, March of 2015, it's like, hey, this is great and everything, but like, if we don't have people to work with, what are we going to do? And he's like, well, that's kind of her job. And I'm like, well, I'm just telling you from the outside looking in, like, dude, that ain't happening, because we don't have anybody. You know what I mean? I think in March we may have had a net total of like 3 people in the program, maybe. And so it was in a bad spot. And so then in March, like, we all, we had meetings and all that type of stuff. She ends up getting let go, and he asked me if I would essentially kind of step in more to that kind of program director role. And I was like, yeah, like, I guess, like, I didn't really know what it was. It wasn't like I was getting paid anything to do it. It was more of like a, hey, like, if you can make this thing successful, like, I'll back you up, and like, we'll find ways to make it work. And so definitely hats off to Brian for that. Like, I cannot say or just even express the amount of gratitude that I have towards him, one, as an individual, but just as a mentor and somebody who's been in my corner over the last decade, because he is the reason that this thing didn't close down. Because it's not like, I started out and next thing you know, we had 100 kids in the program. Like, it takes time to build business, and it takes time to get things going. Without his confidence in me and trust in me to just figure it out eventually, like, we would have been in a bad spot. And we were in bad spots. Like, first 3-4 years of this thing, like, we were losing money essentially every single month at the old facility. So we're talking 2 facilities ago. We were in a size and space that was essentially like this, that the one that we're in now. But the baseball businesses that were being ran over there were essentially failing. They were failing before they really started, which, again, I wasn't involved in the decision making on a lot of that stuff. But the structure on some of that stuff was just not very good. And, it was a cultivation of a couple things. Like, just from the outside looking in, there was just some mismanagement of some things. And Brian wasn't super hands-on that side of it. He was just hoping that it got done. And some of that stuff didn't get done. And then it turned into timing and money and just all kinds of different stuff. So that facility started, spiraling downhill pretty quick. And, Brian was really the only guy keeping the lights on over there. So, and that was a ticking time bomb, because he could only do that, essentially for so long. So yeah,
Well,
that's kind of the base anyway. That's kind of where it started.
Yeah. So first and foremost, I want to thank you for being long-winded, so Sean and I could finish our Casey's Pizza.
Yeah, let me finish.
And now we'll fast forward quite a bit. We recently just hit the 10-year mark for Wichita Parisi. You received a cool plaque and all that good stuff. And we'll jump back into some of the fun things that Sheldon's been able to do with Parisi, like go to, I believe it was the Adidas camp or something like that. So we'll dive into that. But Sean Cutler, program director. Sean, tell us about your Parisi experience coming in as I mean, we've touched on it, but you've been around for about 2 years now. Maybe 3.
No, not 3.
Close. Oh, getting
Two and a,
closer.
two and a half.
Two and a
Two and a
half.
half. 2.5.
So two
Yeah.
and a half. So Sean, talk about Parisi, man. You're the program director. I mean, you obviously had to earn that. So let's hear your journey as a Parisi coach into the culture that we have with all the fun things that Parisi offers.
Yeah, we talked about it a little bit. How I was looking for a baseball coaching job, and it brought me here. And then Sheldon also said, "Hey, why don't we get you set up on the Parisi side of things? Because believe it or not, the summer assistant baseball coaching job doesn't make the most money. I know,
Are
it's
you
shocking.
sure?
I know it's shocking. I know. But obviously, it's a lot of dedication, just love for the game. That's the reason people do it. Which also he, is like, hey, if you want to make some extra cash, essentially, get you set up on this. Um, I was going to talk about it earlier. I just couldn't find a time to interject. It's
just do it, man.
Yeah. But I come from a background where, okay, so you're a football player, you have to run track. That's how you get faster, essentially. So, like, if you're playing football in high school or junior high, whatever, you better be out for track too. That's the expectation.
So we're back on the weird Iowa stuff again?
Yeah. No, I'm just trying to explain my thought process behind this. Okay.
Fair enough.
I don't appreciate the weird Iowa stuff.
I'm sorry.
We could just talk about weird Ohio stuff then.
Probably more in Ohio.
Oh man.
But anyways, so because he's taught, well, he mentioned that the lack of information, the lack of education, on this side of sports, right? And most people, the majority of people and kids in America get brought up without that education, that information. And it's like basically you get to a point where, okay, if you just want to be faster, go out for track. Okay, well, I went out for track and they put me in distance races. That doesn't make me faster.
Because you got long legs.
Oh yeah, you got the
Doesn't
long
make
legs.
me. Yeah, there's plenty of sprinters with long legs too. But I was just slow, right? So, and obviously growing, getting taller, and I was just my body's going through change. I was slow, so that was the way I can contribute to the track team. That's what I did. But at the end, when I look back, I'm like, well, that didn't make me any faster. Why wasn't I golfing or something?
Sure.
Something that would have been a little bit. Well, I don't know if I would have, but that was the concept. It's like, okay. And then there was kids who didn't go out for basketball because they wanted to lift to get bigger. And so they would take the winter to lift, and then so they could get bigger for football or whatever. I don't know.
So
really
athletes that were hyper focused on one sport.
It's just sure, but that was the thing behind it. You had to take time away from this thing to get better at this thing.
Mhm.
Or you had to do this do this sport to get better at this sport, and that's not how it works, right? Like, you have to put in the time to specifically work on your athletic ability to be a better athlete. Yes, you marginally get better over time doing a bunch of sports, but you're never going to reach whatever level you think you're going to reach. Essentially just playing a bunch of different sports. So that's the thought process I had. I just came in and I thought I was slow, and that's it. You can't teach speed. I was not blessed with speed, and that's that, right? So that's my thought process coming in, and that's was my thought process when he asked me if I want to coach Parisi. It's like I was like, well, I don't run fast. I don't want to tell you how to run fast. It's like, well, that's fine. You'll learn, and so go to the certification once again with Coach Chad, and you get to just feel the immense love they have for their athletes there. So like when I go to Columbia to get certified there, it's just like they're telling stories about their athletes and everything, and how much they just how much they care, and how invested they are into them, because it's not just like, yeah, bring your kid by here, we'll work them out a little bit and send them on their way.
Mm-hmm.
Give us some money. It's not transactional. There is deep care for the not only just making kids better athletes, but the health and well-being for the youth. Because I mean, obviously today's landscape, we're the most unhealthy. Kids are the most unhealthy they've ever been. But less than 1% of kids under 18 can do one chin up. Pull their body weight up. And it's probably not much better for push-ups, even though that's a slightly easier motion. But And so like right then, obviously I wasn't fully committed to Parisi yet, but like right then I was like, okay, this is a special community, and this is you know, this network is something you want to be a part of because they're all over the country. So it's like they're trying to make the entirety, this is a big picture thing as much as it is a local community, small picture thing, right? You're part of something. You're not only part of your community that's bigger than you, you're part of a whole movement around the country that's bigger than you when you're part of Parisi. Right. And so going part-time for a while, then eventually just, trying to do what I can for the team. Coaching and making relationships with the kids, making relationships with their parents for a long time. And then obviously, really getting invested into the coaching side of things, and not just treating it as much of just a job anymore or some little part-time job. It was something I enjoyed doing, to where like, okay, I've seen it. I've seen this kid came in at roughly the same time I did, and now this is where he was, and this is where he is now, or this is where she was, and this is where she is now in just a couple months. And then like I didn't have as much of a stake in it then, but like seeing like a kid who'd really improve, and then like would, take a break off for the season or just go either elsewhere, just stop doing Parisi because they're like, oh, we got better. That's good enough. And we'll leave. And then I'm like, in my head, I'm like,
Don't do that.
right. But
That's a
I'm just,
bad idea.
yeah, it's
Why?
just like, why
What?
aren't you still in here?
Yeah.
I'm like, this 3 month, and then obviously you get into the weeds a little bit more, get more involved on the business side of things as things go along, um, and that's got to be the message you put forth to the parents in your relationship with them, right? Is being consistent while they're being here. But we can get into that as well. But yeah, so just part of my journey from becoming that like, part time, and then obviously when I got more intertwined in the community, knew I was going to stay here. Then I was like, okay, I want to make Parisi work because I want to be all in, because if I'm going to be around the community, I want to be super invested in this youth athletic landscape here. And this is the best way to do that because it is pure just let's get in, let's go to work, and let's get you as good as we can for that 1 hour a day. And then hopefully I see you tomorrow or a couple more times this week, and just keep working and building and building and building. And then of course the cool part is hearing those success stories from parents, letting oh, my kid jumped up and caught a fly ball. My 10-year-old kid jumped up, caught a fly ball in softball, and she came off the field. She's like, that's how, that's what my coaches at Parisi taught me to do.
Right. Then you get that social media post and
Well,
and all those things.
yeah, well, sure, but like I think it's just the best just to hear stuff like that, and then
Well, and I think too on that topic, it's it's a true paradigm shift of understanding what is important for youth development,
yeah,
right? And I think that is something that we overcomplicate. We make much harder than it needs to be. It's such a simplistic mindset, and long time ago, in the 80s and 70s and the 60s, people just valued physical health.
yeah,
And probably before that as well, right? That's just a time stamp. But, I'm a 90s kid, and like I always talk about this when we are doing our parent orientations and stuff, is like, I didn't have the internet at home, which makes people like, what? Like you didn't have Wi-Fi? It's like,
Old.
no,
Oh man, I was born before the internet.
yeah, we had dial up at
Whoa.
one. I think we got dial up in like 7th or 8th grade at the house, like that whole thing. Like, like our entire foundation was developed because when we got home from school, mind you, we were much more active in school then than the
Yeah.
kids are now.
Yeah.
So on top of that activity, we would come home and to entertain ourselves, whether you were a kid
Go
by yourself or
outside.
with brothers,
Mhm.
sisters, whatever, you went outside, you ran around, you rode bikes, you played random made up games because we didn't have technology to sit there and get us a dopamine hit every single day. Like we created that for ourselves, right? So unbeknown to us, we were creating athletic foundation. I climbed a tree probably every day when I
Oh,
got
yeah.
home. Like I got on my for whatever reason, I was infatuated with getting on the roof of our house. I remember this, and my mom every day would yell at me, get off of the roof, get off of the roof, stay off of the roof. And I was like, well, mom, it's fun. Like I get to climb on this. I'm hanging here. I pull myself up. Like I'm doing muscle ups to get up on this thing. Like it was fun. Like that type of stuff was fun. And she's like, yeah, it's going to be fun until you slip because you're a ding dong. And then you're going to break your leg. Mind you, I
can
am
see
the only
Mom
person
saying
in my
that.
family that I have, knock on wood, I don't have any broken bones. My brother, on the other hand, different story. He fell off of a fence that was like hip high.
You
But
probably got him in trouble doing that.
no, I was at baseball practice when he fell off that fence. So that was
Well,
on
you
his
did
own.
have a broken
It was a
head
little
at one
minor.
point.
A what?
You have a broken head at one point.
Yeah, well, I did. I cracked my head a few times, but the point, like we were active, like, and that is something that is lacking in many different areas of our youth's life in this day and age. And to go back onto like what kind of set me on fire was that, like that was the underlying thing that I've noticed and was like, dude, we can just do this better. Like we can find ways to provide a system for these athletes, these kids, to be able to have a space where they can go and truly work on it, like truly understand what it is to be athletic and create some sort of a program for them. So
That kind of goes back to our conversations about, this is enough,
mhm.
with the school programs, and then having something like this.
Yeah. Oh, I'm sure we're going to interview a lot of coaches that are in the schools that'll say the same things.
Yeah. Like they're
that's
just sitting there
yeah.
all day long.
Yeah. Oh,
And then when they, or have a break from class, they're on their phone.
phones. Yeah.
Because I it's what I do.
Yeah.
It's
Exactly.
like, and if a kid has a phone, what do you think they're gonna do?
Exactly.
So it's and I mean, yeah, growing up, we had a couple recesses a day, and then we had gym class. Every kid had gym class,
Mhm.
and then all of a sudden, at some point, I think when I was in high school, kind of transition. I know Weird Iowa stuff again, but
This is probably here too, though.
This is
Yeah.
probably here, yeah.
it started to transition to where like, okay, whatever we're doing at gym today, you don't have to do. You can just walk,
Uh-huh.
which
Better than nothing.
Oh,
better
man,
than nothing. Those kids would
that
they'd
speed
walk,
run walk.
they'd walk like 2 laps and then sit down for the
Mhm.
rest of the time, And then the gym teacher like, what's he gonna do? Go back to walking.
Yeah.
I mean, he can, but ultimately he can't do anything. So it's just like the slow transition to, okay, now you can opt out of gym class. Like how many kids
A
come
more
into the
sedentary
program?
approach to life.
Yeah, how many
Well, they
kids
don't
come
wanna
into the
argue with it.
program
No.
and
There's
then
no discipline.
I'm like, do you guys have gym class? No, we don't have an option for gym class. And so now they don't even like, some of them don't even have the option. And I could be wrong. It's just what kids are telling me.
True.
Some of them don't have like the option for gym class until, excuse me, like sophomore year or junior year, and then they only get it for like one semester. I'm like, I don't care. Like whatever you're learning in that other hour that you're not spending in gym probably ain't going to help you that much. Just saying.
There's always time to do that anyway.
Yeah.
But yeah, on the story, so like fast forwarding back on the story, so we're in the old facility. I kind of get going program director wise. We have a couple good coaches with us, couple that were kind of not really all in. So that kind of started weeding out a little bit as well too. And so we're over there, kind of getting some footing, kind of getting some things rolling, and then we get, I don't know the numbers exactly because it was so long ago, but we're doing okay. Like we're doing okay. We're figuring it out. We start to create a little momentum. But the problem is like Parisi was never meant to be the main business over there, right? The baseball was. And I've learned a lot in that because obviously we do a lot of baseball stuff now too. But like that seasonal approach to that is not going to suffice a year-long, mortgage payment basically. And so when that was all happening, it kind of got to the point where it was like, okay, like we're going to have to make some adjustments because this building is not, we can't pay for this building anymore. And so it turned into, and again, you guys remember, like I wasn't necessarily in the internal conversations of like what was going on with the building, what was happening, that type of stuff. It was more like I got the mail one day and the mail said, you have 30 days to get out of this building. And I was like, hey, Brian, what are we doing? Like I mean, I literally got that mail and I was just like, holy smokes. Like, okay, so this is all going to change really, really quickly. So it was, fast forward, we're trying to find places. We're looking all over the place, just all over. And we ended up finding the smaller facility that we were able to get into. It didn't need a lot of like renovations. It needed a little bit, but not a lot. And when I say a little bit, I mean like just very, very minimal stuff. We can go lay turf down and basically get the ball rolling. So we're like, okay, let's do it. Let's get on a lease over there and just kind of, start the move. And it was my birthday of 20, what would that have been? 18, maybe, I think. 2017, 2018, one of those years. I was playing softball. I don't know if I was playing with or that team, but I was playing softball and dive for a ball, catch a ball, come up to throw the ball, noticed that my had ripped my ligament essentially on this thumb. And I was like, it was actually like a week or two before my birthday because I had surgery on my birthday. Which also turned into a big problem because that was the year I lost my insurance off my parents' insurance the day that I did that. So then I had a surgery, but I didn't remember that my insurance was changed. It was just a big old mess. But so that was fun. So we got that whole mix up figured out. But so anyway, in that exact same time frame, I get a cast on, and July 1, I'm pretty sure is when we got that mail. So I have a cast on my hand. I'm not supposed to like lift anything, do anything, and now I have to move an entire facility to another one. And granted, we had the coaching staff and I definitely had some help. It wasn't like I did every single little bit by myself, but I did a lot of it, and I was definitely lifting a lot of things that I was not supposed to be lifting. And at the old facility, whoever's idea this was just a terrible idea as well too. The gym was on top of the office space. So like how we're up here, the gym was on top of this thing. Like it not smart, because then when it came time to move, we had to rent a telehandler to be able to lift up to the thing, put all the equipment on it,
Those
lift it
stairs
all
were
the way
steep.
down. Yeah, like it was not shout out to Katie and Josh, because those were the two that were with me at that point in time, and they helped me move pretty much all of that stuff. Like it was crazy. So we get all the stuff broken down. I took everything apart, got it all down there, and then same thing, get the trailers, loading it on the trailers, bringing it over here, drop it off, back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, get it over to the new facility, get it all set up. Like it was crazy. But the move was it was a very monumental move for our brand here, because we went from being inside of something else to our own space, right?
Standalone.
Yeah. And when we switched over to that standalone mentality, we started taking off. Like it really started to click with football players and basketball players and soccer players. Why? Because we weren't in a baseball facility, right? Like it wasn't like, oh, hey, I'm going to this baseball thing to work on my basketball, right? Because you got to also remember, even as short as, 5, 6, 7, 8 years ago, like this performance-based training was still, I mean, it's growing and growing and growing and growing in some bad ways and growing in good ways too. But, most people still, I mean, how many times do you guys in a week, like, still talk to people that have no idea who we are, right?
All the time.
All the time, every day. And just imagine back then, right? And we've been around, we have a good local branding here. Like, we have a lot of good support, that type of stuff. But, 5, 6, 7 years ago, even then, it's worse. They're like, well, wait a minute. Are you guys going to teach them how to basketball? And it's like, what? Like, no, like that's not what we do, right? So we have to explain it. But we move over there and it starts to really solidify itself. It starts to become more of a local approach. It starts to become more of like, oh, this is like a training facility, which I don't love that terminology either, but that's closer to where we are. But so then we start to pull in from different programs, like people start to see stuff. And granted, like, at these points in times, like, yeah, like we have a staff, but like I'm pretty much running the bulk of almost everything, right? Like I'm coaching 10 to 12 regular program schedules a week, like I'm doing all the one-on-ones, all the peak groups, all the teams, like,
all the outreach and trying to grow the brand
outreach,
for sure.
all the marketing, like, you know what I mean? It's really a one-man band. I had a couple people helping do some regular classes, so here and there when it worked for them. And, so there was help there, but it was just, I was plugged in, and that was the priority, right? So KCLB stuff's still going on, but the KCLB stuff was like I get home at 9:30 at night and I'm on the computer doing stuff until midnight kind of a thing. Not necessarily like where we're at now, where we're in the community during the day and, going out there and like doing different stuff. Like we didn't have the resources to do that type of stuff then. And so anyway, it starts to grow and things are happening, and I'm plugging into the info, right? Like, so that's one of the major things that I've always stayed really locked in on in Parisi. And I also think that that's one thing, like for a listener that's listening in, that separates us from other things out there is, our education base continues. Like the education base here in Parisi does not stop. Like it keeps growing, it keeps getting better. And I think that that is a major difference between us and all of the other quote unquote competitors around us. Is most of the time they get information, they stick with the same information, they're coaching the same information that they coached 10 years ago, like, and it doesn't change. And I witness it, I see it, I hear it, right? Like the stuff that I did 10 years ago, although we thought it was correct then, it's not as correct now, right? Like science changes, right? And so we find more efficient ways of doing things. We find better and more proven science as time goes on. And then we follow that science. Like our stuff follows that. So, that part of it is fun, like continuing to learn and keep understanding, the things. But so we're over there in the old facility and things are going good, like it's growing, it's really starting to turn into more of a business. We probably got to we were over there for almost 3 years and over there for probably 1 year in total. And then finally we get to a point where we're over there. And like when we made the move over there and got established, like we finally made it to where we were like making enough money to pay the bills every month. Like that was like the start of us actually, being able to sustain our business on a month to month basis. And that was a huge accomplishment for me. Obviously, I felt like finally I had not, let Brian down essentially, like trying to, make this thing happen. And then slowly and steady, we start, recovering on the debts and making sure everything's going the right direction. And just, it's a long game at the end of the day. And, we finally get to our spots to where we are now and things are going good. Like our system's growing, business is growing, everything's moving in a good direction. But, ultimately the biggest piece of that happens is like, when I look back and reflect on that growth before we start moving over here, we're over there. It's like we get close to 2020 and it's like, man, we're working with a lot of kids. Like we have a lot of families we're helping, and that's where I would say like pre 2020 was like where we had a ton of kids that were in high school. We had a ton of young, going into high school. Like that was like our mean age at that point in time, which was an awesome spot because we were changing kids' lives. Like we were providing them solutions to their athletic struggles that were helping them start to get opportunities in high school and trying to get into high school teams. And to me, that's what's most impactful, right? Because then once they get there and we're able to help them and do different things during that process, that's when we saw over the next, few years, right before we came over here, where it's like, man, it's every day I'm sending a kid to college. Like every day I'm going to a college thing. Like there is just kids galore coming out of Parisi that are going to college. And, we have a small part in that, like a piece of it. But, those kids were the ones that took direction in their life. They took action in their life. Like they were the ones that bought into the program, did the work, and then now they get to heed those results, which, for us, kids going to college is like our number one thing, right? Like that's us sending kids on, like that's our job. Because when they get into college, that's a whole different dynamic. And we still help them. I still work with all those kids. I work with a lot of college kids still today, but that's after the fact, right? Like our number one thing is prepare them for that next level and help them understand what it's going to be like when they get there and go from that. So yeah.
Sidebar conversation here. There's 3 facilities, and I feel like there's 3 different hairstyles. So when I met you, you didn't have like long hair, and then at the old facility, it was like man bun with a beard, and now we're long hair. You moved over here with long hair,
Yeah.
but still, like I lost hair in the move from facility 2 to facility 3. Just kind of thinking about that. Everybody, people talk about the long hair. Oh, Sheldon's the one with the long hair, right?
I'd probably get known for that a little bit more. I've been growing the hair out for a while. Now you have long hair.
Yeah. But I mean, when I met Sheldon, he didn't have long hair, and then when I started at Parisi and worked with him, he had the man bun.
Just keep it going.
And then here we are, long hair.
How long you been growing it out for? Since you actually got like a legit cut.
Man, I don't know. When I met Ashley, I had short hair, like super short hair, like buzz cut hair. Because I used to just get like number 2 and zip it all down. Because me and my brother would cut our hair ourselves, basically, just kind of style it up. But then I grew it a little bit longer, and then I kind of had I did like the little part, like side part for a while. And then I was like, I'm kind of tired of getting haircuts all the time because to keep that, you got to like get it cut every week, 2 weeks. So then I was like, I'll just go through the awkward phase. I wear a hat every day anyway. So I was like, I'll go through the awkward phase of letting I think it was
Mhm.
this side. It might have been that side. Grow out and catch up. And then once that kind of caught up, it was, well, I'm just going to see how it feels long. And I just kept going and going and going and going. Now I don't ever get it cut, really. I see Doug like once, maybe once or twice a year. Usually just get my beard trimmed up, but we're going mustaches now. So I need to get rid of all this and just get back to the stash.
I know it's pretty easy for everybody to see, but I also have a
Yeah.
stash right now.
Yeah. His is very thick.
You
Yeah.
know,
When he was walking the other day down on the turf, I was like, "Man, did you keep the mustache? It looks like in the shadow, it's kind of there." And he was like, "Thank you. Yeah, it is kind of there."
yeah, just a
Nice.
little bit. You can kind of see it.
It's funny.
Nice.
The fluorescent lighting doesn't help.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's what I'm going to blame it on.
So let's go back to the Adidas camp thing. I know when I first came in, there was you got invited to do some pretty cool stuff. Was that in Florida or where
No,
was that?
that was in Texas.
Okay, Texas.
Yep.
So take us on your trip to Texas. I mean, I feel like that would be a big honor
Yeah, it
to
was pretty cool.
have that opportunity.
Yeah, Parisi had partnered with it was the combine training that they were doing. They had like I think it was Rivals. That's what it's called. Adidas Rivals Combine. So, and we got a partnership with NCSA as well too. Shout out Chris. Although he doesn't have anything to do with it. He just works there. But so they were doing like a big football, Adidas Rivals thing, and so I got invited to go down to that and warm up athletes and just kind of prepare them for their combine testing stuff, and it was fun. Like it was pretty cool. I got to work with Steve Leo, who's also a master coach. He's legit. Definitely a track guy, kind of a top speed guy. Knows his stuff. I've learned a lot from him, and just getting to go down, and some of those kids obviously, went on to play, and I there were so many of them, like I couldn't remember their names. They all had numbers, but I mean, it was 300 plus probably all said and done. So we went and did that. I actually ended up doing that twice. So I got invited back down there again. So we did it 2 years in a row, and it was cool. It was fun. I mean, we went down, just got to meet a bunch of athletes from all across everywhere. I mean, the bulk of them came from Texas, obviously, but as you guys know, Texas football is pretty legit. So there was some there were some big boys, okay, down there
Oh.
getting after it, but it was fun. We just warmed him up. I got to warm him up alongside him. There was a couple of kind of quote unquote like celebrity trainers down there that work with Adidas, so they were doing the whole streaming things and making their videos and that whole bit. But it was fun. It was a good time. Got to meet some people. We warmed them up. They ran 40s. I helped more so with 5-10-5s. 5-10-5s has kind of been my thing. So just was coaching through that, doing times through that, just trying to, help them understand what they were doing. And that was pretty much it.
Oh, well, I'm going to put Sean under the microscope here.
You talk about my hair now?
No. I mean, for people who might be interested in Parisi and learning more about it after listening to this, if they make it this far, what are the core values here? Like the pillars that lead us to, being a better athlete.
First off, we want to empower the youth athlete to be confident in their movement. Because the biggest thing is, and obviously we'll get into kind of what we go through in class and everything, our overview of a normal class, but giving these kids a realization, and this is kind of the school part but like giving them a realization of, okay, this is what he's saying to me. All right, whatever. But once that's why we do the teaching side of things. So giving them confidence in movement gives them confidence to be a better athlete. And so what we go through over the course of a week, each of our class has a focal point. Okay, so we have our acceleration days that's focused on more acceleration. You can go, a few different avenues with that. And then you have top speed days or top end mechanics. And then you have change of direction, multi-directional speed, and then deceleration and strength. Deceleration is pretty much like that's kind of an everyday thing that it's so underrated. Something that does not get taught almost at all. Even for especially if you just go to your trainer or whatever, they might make you stronger. They might make you a little faster, but if they're not teaching you deceleration, you're going to be more at risk for injury than, Anything, because the stronger and more faster you get and you don't know how to break and stop, that's when you get susceptible to those ACL, knee blowouts, ankle injuries, all that stuff because you're putting because I was actually watching a webinar the other day for Parisi,
Continued education. Yep.
talking about deceleration and, some learning some new things and then some refreshers that, I learned during the cert and everything. But like an athlete absorbs 3 to 5 times their body weight when they are decelerating. So when they're stopping. So if you're a 150-pound athlete and you're slowing down from 75 to 90% of your top speed, you're absorbing 450 pounds of force in your body. So if you're 150 pounds at least. And then, the faster you go, that's the more force you're absorbing into the ground. So trying to prevent injuries, be confident in your movement, but then also be confident enough you're going to try to be hopefully as injury free as possible. And then strength is also trickled in most days to our normal programming as well. Some form of strength, whether like for our younger kids, be more body weight, some more
Resistance
free
training.
weights,
Yeah.
resistance bands, tidal tanks, stuff like more plyometric stuff that gets them to help control and balance, and then that also goes into your change of direction, multi-directional speed as well, and then that acceleration top end speed, those can be pretty much blended days. Obviously, we'd focus on one or the other most days, but then obviously, if you're going to go a full sprint, there's going to be some acceleration in
Sure.
there. If you're going to go a sprint basically over 10 yards, you're going to reach some of that top end mechanics anyway. So you can kind of call those linear speed days as well. Each of our classes, we have a focus on kind of one of those things, if not two. And then, of course, try to make sure we go over deceleration and a little bit of strength every single day. And then we are also teaching these kids, doing our best to teach these kids the definitions of what these are, the focal points of what we want to focus on in our body while we're doing it, because that is how they take it away from here and apply it when they are practicing, when they are playing. Because as we know, kids, something I tell parents a lot, it's great that your kid is in a bunch of sports. I'd much rather have them in a bunch of sports than, focusing on a single sport at the age of 10 or 11 or 12 or 13. It's great that they're in a bunch of sports, but they get so used to practice speed because they're in so much practice all the time. Practice speed isn't your full potential. It's almost never your full potential, right? You put effort pretty much subconsciously, you just put effort in practice when you are yelled at to put effort in practice. And then if you can get by with not putting in your full effort for a 2 hour long practice, you're going to do that, you know? So that's what your body gets used to. So you don't even, that's why I tell everybody like in, baseball, like when every kid hits a double and most baseball players can probably all relate to this. You could do all the conditioning you want to do, but you hit a double, you're still gassed when you get to second base. You get to second base, like, breathing heavy because, you maybe do all your conditioning or even pitchers go and cover a cutoff after throwing, as hard as they can to home plate. They go back up third or something, and they're winded just from running over there, even though they do all their conditioning after games.
Right.
Because it's just you get used to getting by practice as opposed to reaching your full potential. So our goal in these classes is to find your athlete's full potential where they're at and then break through that ceiling as much as we can, which we can do with enough effort and focus from your kid, and then our high effort coaching and our continued education on working on how to improve that athlete as much as we can, and noticing communicating as a coaching staff to be like, okay, this kid just did our end of the month testing, and our challenge event, and then he, is lacking a little bit in this. So when we see this kid again in class, let's try as long as we're not, basically spamming the same classes every single day, let's try to do this class when he's in, right?
Sure.
Or when she struggled with this, so she struggled with her power output numbers, like her vertical jump wasn't as good, her 5 hop wasn't as good. So when she comes around, let's try to make sure we're focusing a little bit more on that stuff. So obviously, if you're in our regular program, we can't always tailor the class perfectly to you, but that's why we encourage our athletes to come 2 or 3 times a week, because then they can get a full athletic,
Well, it's the scope, but it's also more eyes and more, when I think of what's cool about Parisi, or one thing that I think is cool about our system and programming is, just imagine, it doesn't matter where they're at in their journey, but when they come here, they're getting a dedicated staff that's paying attention to their minute details in their development if they're taking advantage of the program and they're showing up. right? Like, where else do they get that? Like, they think, like, they live and believe that they're getting this from high school, or they get it from the PE, or they get it from this, like, they think that that attention is being sent there, and it's not. Like, it's just, you're lying to yourself if you think that when they go to this high school weights program in the summertime, where there's 85 kids that are there, or 100 kids, or whatever the number is, and they have 3 coaches there that are getting paid to run it. Even if those coaches were on fire, if me and you
Yeah.
were, like,
Yeah.
at the top
Oh.
of a top of our game,
We can't
we
cover
could not
yeah.
service
No.
those kids. Like,
No.
it
And
would
somebody's
not be
somebody's still gonna get hurt.
logistically possible. Like,
Yeah.
it's just, and I am really good at what I do.
Mhm.
I can do more than the common, like, coach. I firmly believe I've been doing a long time. Like, I can see things quickly. Like, I can get out there and assess. I can do things at a high level. And if you put me in a group that has more than probably 12 kids, I can't do it.
Oh,
Like, I
yeah.
can't pay attention to everybody.
We
And
could
and
we
then you
could
want me to do it in an hour and a half or 2
Yeah.
hours with that, like, it's just,
No.
it's not possible. And, so it's a money thing. Like, they're trying to, enrich the program that way. They're trying to build some culture there. Like, there's off things where that stuff is still positive. Like, there's still, I think they mean well in certain aspects, but there's better ways to spend your
Yeah.
time. Like, and that's what you get out of Parisi when you come to these classes, is you're getting a staff that, one, cares about your individual athlete, but then 2, we care about what we are offering as well too. So the attention to detail is what separates us. The
Mhm.
attention to the small things is why it's different. You can go get training. You can go train all over the place. Like, dude, there's so many training opportunities. Like, you can go find them. They're everywhere. And hey, newsflash for anybody who's listening, you can train yourself. Like, all of the information that you need to work on speed, work on strength, work on this, all of that is available on this thing called the internet. Now, good luck
What?
trying to decipher what is good information, what's bad information, what to follow, what not to follow. Good luck. Like, and I commend you if that's the route that you want to go. Here's the problem. If you try to go those routes without experience and professionalism, you are going to be in, your body's going to be in a world of hurt because you're just guessing. Number one. Number two, you have nobody to hold you accountable other than yourself. And I'm not saying you can't hold yourself accountable, because a lot of people do. The mass majorities do not. And then 3, you have to be disciplined. Like, you're going to have to be disciplined beyond measure to be able to figure out all of this stuff, apply all of this stuff, and then be able to see the results that you say that you're wanting to get. That is why we are in business. Like, I'm not pulling punches. Like, I'm not trying to act like it's something that it's not. Like, all the information that we have, most, I will say, not all, because we come from our programming comes from a one of a kind mind that has shaped this entire industry in Bill Parisi. So, shout out to him, who has coached me personally. I've worked with him personally. Like, I could reach out to him any given moment of any day, and that dude is just still, after 40 years of doing this, still on fire for this field. But, like, we have certain things that he has brought to the entire industry, pioneered to this industry. And people will still, like, just be in this mix of, oh, well, we got to go do this, we got to go do that. It's like, yeah, that's fine. Like, you can go and do it. But the results that you're going to find from going down that path, they're not going to heed you the things that you're telling us that you want, right? Like, and that's one of the biggest differences when you see our program compared to offerings from other things that are out there. And I'm not saying all of them, because there's a lot of good coaches. I wouldn't even call a lot of the trainers coaches. I call them trainers because that's what they do. But, there's big differences between those two things. I think that there's a massive difference between a trainer and a coach. And I think that the general public should understand what those differences are. They should pay attention to what those things are, because just understanding one scope of what we do, which is essentially, call it the mechanics, right? Call it the science, or call it the basis of, that portion of the workout, that's one piece. But the coaching aspect is, how does that translate to your athlete? How does your athlete actually understand what they are being asked to do? Because I promise you, if I take kids out there and just run them through drills and run them and run them and run them and go through drills and go through drills, they're going to get, sure, a little physically better. Like, sure, there's some argument there that physicality is going to uptick them a little bit. But then when it comes time to solve problems, make decisions, be able to assess situations, which, newsflash, That's what high level athletes do. High level athletes correct problems. They make decisions. They see situations and then they're able to actually decipher and then be able to tell their body what to do. When that happens, that's coaching, right? That is the piece that we offer in our system that nobody else really is doing at the same level that we are doing, I would say. There's businesses across the world that do, obviously. But yeah, I mean, it's just that piece and where Parisi separates itself. I mean, it's once you're in it and you plug into the system. That's why I've stayed as long as I have, right? The continuing education, the being bought into the big picture, all that stuff. Like it's just been it's been a great ride. Like it's been awesome. The people and the coaches and just all the stuff, the relationships. I mean, it's amazing. And like you said, I think one thing, like when you went to that training and that certification, that team feel, that like, hey, like we are all on the same team in this, like let's go change the world mentality and like let's get excited.
Let's get the the youths
Yeah.
of America to be not only, healthier, just more confident and less, more injury free too.
Yeah.
And that's such an underrated part. I mean, how many times do you see a kid come in here with a busted up something, whether that's a knee, and not even necessarily here, just around, like, oh, by the our quarterback's hurt, our tight end's hurt, our point guard, tore his ACL, he's recovering from ACL injury. Oh, I got Tommy John surgery. Oh, great. You're 16, fantastic.
Yeah. Injuries don't get me wrong, like freak injuries happen.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like some of that stuff's just unavoidable. There's things that you can't do to fix it, right? Or change it, I should say. But I always ask parents, like, and I think it's funny to get their responses sometimes, but, I ask parents that are around my age, right? I'm mid-30s now, and if you go and talk to some of those people, ask them, like, hey, when you were growing up, how many people were hurt?
Yeah.
Like, truly hurt. Like, how many people do you remember when you
were,
when you were in 7th, 8th, 9th, 10th, like beginning of high school ages, how many people were having surgeries?
Yeah.
How many people, and granted, there were still people doing it, but when you look at those numbers in comparison to what it was to what it is today, there's a lot of variables. Like it's not just a one size fits all thing. So that's the disclaimer there. But the athletic foundation in us at that time frame, and I say us just in age, comparatively to what you see now from the full populace, right? That's also the other thing too that I think's majorly like different. Is everybody was an athlete when I was in 7th grade. Like we had like 2, maybe 3 kids in my grade. Granted, it's a smaller school, but like we had maybe a couple kids that didn't play sports. In this day and age, it's way closer to 50-50. Like it's way closer and probably even an uptick. I don't know that number, but there's probably more kids that don't play sports than do play it competitively. The difference is there's just a much larger number of kids now. Like the populace is continuing to grow. So, and I don't know exactly what those numbers are, but you just see it. Like I how many times we've gone. We did our little high school tour. We went and ran PE class, kind of to your thing that you were talking about. That was before your time. I won't say the high school, but I remember I showed up. I was so pissed. I was not happy. I was like, dude, why I'm wasting my time here, which just rubs me the wrong way. But so I go out to this thing and, I pull up and things are great. There's 100 and some odd kids in this class, right? So, and I'm by myself, but I'm like, screw it, dude. I'm on fire. Let's go. Like, I'll make this work. I lay it out. Like, I don't care. Like, I'll make it happen. Like, my voice is loud enough to run this thing. It ain't going to be perfect. I ain't going to be able to pay attention to them, but we'll have fun with it. We'll make it work. And I remember the PE teacher was like, okay, well, how are you wanting to set this up? I was like, I'm going to use this whole thing. I'm going to use everything. Like, everybody's going to come down. I'm going to use the whole floor. Like, I'll make it work. And he's like, oh, well, you want everybody? And I was like, well, isn't this your class? Like, yeah. He's like, oh, well, man, I just can't really, I don't think all of them are going to participate. And my wife would probably, I probably looked at him a type of way, like, what? Like, what are you talking about? They're just not going to participate. He's like, well, yeah, it's kind of optional on if they do physical activity with me. And I'm like, you're the PE teacher.
Why are they here?
What? And there he was like, so then he gets them all together. And this is no crap. Like he get them all together. 90% of them are on their phones. And he's like, all right, guys, this is Sheldon with the Parisi Speed School. He didn't say it right, but he's going to come and take you guys through a speed workout today and blah, blah, blah. And, he kind of introduced me and he was like, for those of you guys that want to participate, come on down from the bleachers and I'm going to have you guys sit on this line. And I'm not joking. There's over 100 kids in there and there was like 20 that came down. And I gave those 20 my entire heart. Like I was all in on them because I was pissed. Like I was just like, it blew me away that is what kind of high school society is kind of turned into. Like it just, and that was, I don't know, 6 years ago, probably now.
Well,
Something
there
like
was
that,
probably
5 years ago.
Probably a lot of athletes who just thought, I don't know.
Yeah.
Too much effort.
I'm good enough.
Yeah, I'm good enough. I don't need this. And that kind of goes back to like what you were saying too. Is I mean, I've had a kid or two tell me that, more than a kid or two, but I do weights. Or parents say, well, we do weights with the school.
Yeah,
it's like okay, yeah, that everyone is though.
Yeah,
like not that weights is if coached right and paid attention to. Not that that's bad. Not that gym class is bad. That's better than nothing, obviously. And not that your little at home workouts, push ups and sit ups are bad. That's not bad at all. But that's what everybody else is doing. If you want to look, and this is when I ever did my own like work outside of sports and stuff, my whole thought was, okay, if I'm going to go shoot hoops for an hour and a half, or if I'm going to go hit off the tee for this long, or if I'm going to throw this football at this stool 15 yards away and try to hit it 9 out of 15 times, whatever it is. My whole thought was looking down the road, okay, first of all, who is in like if I go to this sport in college, who am I beating out then? Or who is the opposing quarterback? Or if I ran for like extra running a track, I can be like, okay, who was my opponent last year in conference that I need to beat around this turn? I got to finish this year. It's not that thought. Like, well, we're all doing. I'm doing weights in my school already. So is everybody else.
Right.
Every single program has a weights program. Yep. So you want to just be like everybody else.
Yeah.
And besides, you can go out there and you can lift. You can outbench me. I'm sure. And there's plenty of high schoolers that outbench me, out squat, out deadlift me right now. Probably not very great athletes.
Yeah.
Some of them might be.
Sure.
But like that's not what it's that's not always making you a better athlete. I lifted as much or more than pretty much all of my college baseball team. I was one of the worst players. Like, it's like I do this weights, I do that. That's not going to catch you up, and that's not going to pull you away.
And
that's the
general
goal.
Fitness.
Yeah.
Right. And there's nothing wrong with general fitness.
Like if that's all you want, perfect.
General fitness is great. Like
if you're trying to be a great athlete, you need to be doing something different than the rest.
You should be fit. Like, like you should be fit. Like general fitness should be a part of your everyday life. But, in those situations, what I always do, and, maybe I'm just not nice. So when I say these things out loud, it's just starting to make me question how I'm
It's all right. I don't know if anybody's making it to an hour and 50.
Yeah, it's kind of making me
they'll make it. They'll make it.
Question how I'm talking to some
those subscribers on YouTube will be there.
Yeah,
Appreciate you all.
But, I always ask the question. I put the kids on the spot because I'm just like, oh, yeah, and it might sound condescending, but I'm just like, really? Okay, well, what are you guys doing in weights? Oh, well, on Mondays we squat, and then like on Tuesdays, it's bench press. And I'm like, oh, okay, yeah, all right. So relatively generalized. That's great. But tell me about what you're doing. Like, what's your journal look like? Like, what exactly are you paying attention to? What do you mean? I'm like, well, dude, like, what's your 1 rep max? What's your 3 rep max? What's your, velocity that you're moving the bar at? Like, what are you doing?
How are you measuring your success?
How do you actually know that any of this is, are you testing? What's your testing protocol look like? Yeah. Like what type of actual program, what system are you doing? Oh, well, I'm just doing whatever they have up there for me. I'm like, okay, like, all right, so we're getting somewhere here. Like the reality of it is yes, you are doing something. You are showing up. Also, the reality of that is there's way too many athletes / kids that are in the class. Nobody's checking you. Nobody's paying attention to what you were doing. You could not lift a weight that weight class, and that teacher wouldn't even know.
Oh, yeah.
They would have no idea. You could be that guy. You guys ever seen those memes of that manager that's helping guys load stuff on the back of the truck where he just kind of walks and then grabs nothing and then just walks back and just helps them? You could do that in every single weights class, and you would never get caught. Like, you would never know because they're not paying attention. And let's preface again, don't get in the comments yelling at us about every pro. Andale does this. Like, I don't want to hear that either.
Why Andale?
Because Andale's like that, dude.
Okay.
But, and I know there's some Andale kids, whatever. But the reality of it is like, those things are good in the sense for general fitness. But if you're trying to really have results-based training, performance-based training, you've got to pay more attention to the little things. And you can't just guess. And if you just guess, you're not going to go the direction that you claim you want to go. Like, I'm not coming to you and saying like, oh, hey, you have to do this. Most of the time you're coming to us because deep down in your soul, in your heart, you know that there's something else. Like, you want to try and get this, you want to be able to do that, whatever it is. But then you're still closed-minded to the idea behind, oh, well, this should be enough. It's like, no, dude, you're missing it. Like, you're missing the point there. But
So
as you can see, we can get pretty hot
let's
on the topics here.
let's
we do.
let's simmer down a little bit here. And Sean, I know you've been around 2.5 years. Sheldon, you've been doing this for 10. Talk about the investment story. Like, we have these athletes here. It's a huge part of us to invest in our athletes and show up for them. I mean, you guys go to football games, baseball games. You guys show up for your athletes, not only at Parisi, but also when they're doing the activity. So maybe there's one story that you just like to highlight, or an athlete that's come in here and you've seen so much change. What maybe give them a shout out. Talk about that story and how it changes you as a coach and them as an athlete. Sheldon has like hundreds.
Yeah, I mean,
just pick one.
I couldn't just pick one. There's quite literally
You'd
hundreds.
have people get mad at you and be like, "Why didn't you pick me?"
I'll tell one of a recent, just because him and I just randomly connected, and I think the reason I like this story is, one, because it's just new, but and just because of the fact that it highlights kind of like our regular program stuff. So we have a lot of kids that end up, starting a regular program. They go on, do more individualized things, do our Parisi Selects program, and that type of stuff, which is the right track, right? Like, that's what they should do if they're trying to do it. But this was a kid who, he came and was in the regular program for a long time. I'm gonna pull up his scores while we're sitting here telling his story, just because I think it's cool.
Who is it?
Alex Epp. You guys probably don't know him.
I'm a face guy, so I'd have to see his face. I don't really do well with the names. I just know my investment story is when one of our athletes comes down and, hey, can you chase me so I can beat my score? Chase you? Sure, I guess. Let me start 5 yards behind you, and if I catch you, there's a problem. And I actually did that yesterday with a couple kids who blew away their scores. And
it's funny what adrenaline and a big man chasing
oh
you
my
will do.
goodness.
We'll do anything to get your kid faster.
I said that yesterday, and I was like, man, it's at least reassuring knowing that if there was a big bald man chasing you, you guys would run a lot faster.
I mean, hey, that's good. They know what to turn on the jets. Yeah, it's just like they were running, they were getting kind of close to their score, but they're still missing it. And I'm telling them adjustments they can make, and it seems like they're doing the adjustments, but then like quite getting there. So it's like, okay, they need to find another gear. Dave, come on over here.
Yeah.
Dave's like, you need me to chase him? I was like, can't hurt.
And they're like, chase me?
They're like, let's do it.
Let's go.
And the kids who already beat their scores are like, I want him to chase me too. I was like, no, it's fine.
No, you already beat your score, man.
But yeah, no, Alex Epps, Mace South kid. He was here in 2017 to 2018-ish, 2019 or so. So that would have been obviously before we moved over to this
before my
facility.
time.
So he was at the old facility. He had a brother too, Isaac, that came as well. So they came together. But he was in the regular program, like just did all of our regular program stuff, just relatively consistent. He started out good too. You know what I mean? He had a good level base. He tested a 602. In that year, went up to 700. Right. So he went up 98 points, which, for those of you guys that don't understand the scoring system, basically, in a nutshell, we have a scoring system that provides each of our athletes a, athletic makeup, foundational scoring system. So that way, every single month that we test them, we're paying attention to these small things, right? So that way it goes up. Something that we do differently than a lot of other things out there. But
let's say, like, basically, if you go up 10 points in a month, that's a really good month.
Yeah. Any increase is good increase. Yeah.
We have some kids who go up quite a bit.
Correct. Yeah, that's what we do. But so anyway, he's with us, in that point in time, and he's in high school at that point as well too. Baseball player. I think baseball was his main sport. I think he played a couple other sports as well too, probably some football in there, but baseball was really what he was focusing on. And I knew when he was signing, because that was kind of in that same transitional period when we were coming from the old facility to new facility, was when he was going to college Went to William Jewell, played there. I haven't talked to him a ton while he was in college, but I had messaged him the other day, just kind of checking in because that's what we do, and just talking to people. And it was pretty cool. I just told him congrats on his stuff and was just talking about that. And he responded, he's like, dude, I just wanted to say thanks to all of the development and work you put into my athletic career that really propelled me forward to have a great career. I'm not sure if you know this or not, but last year I was able to play a year of pro ball. I wouldn't have thought that when I was 16, but I do think that from all the work that you gave me, I got an edge. From my sophomore to senior year, my 60-yard went from a 7.8 down to a 6.7.
Oh.
Hence what we talked about earlier.
Wow.
And my coach told me that
That's
is what
crazy.
got me signed when I ran for my college visit. And he was like, that's pretty cool. And I just told him, like, dude, that's amazing. Like, you worked your ass off, like worked hard, like all the stuff. And I asked him, I was like, who all did you play for? Because I didn't know that you played pro ball. And I was like, that's awesome, man. Congratulations. Like, you earned it. And he was like, well, I made my debut with the Lincoln Salt Dogs against the Kansas City Monarchs. He's like, I faced 101 miles an hour in that league, which was insane. And then I got traded to Lake Erie Crushers in Cleveland and then traded to a team in California. He was like, the moving around was really hard, which is essentially why he stopped. He's like, now I'm living in Kansas City as a civil engineer, and then I'm going to coach college summer ball this summer. And so now we're talking about college summer ball. But,
Nice.
but that's just one of, hundreds of the kids that we've had through the program that have gone on and done cool things. He's successful, like been able to give back to the game. He's going to start coaching, right? For me, that's the success. The pro ball is just cool. Like, that's cool. Anybody that's acting like that's not cool is lying, but it is cool. But for me, it's like, dude, now this kid, exactly what I said earlier, right? Dude, in high school, if I would have had that, right? This dude went from a 7.8 down to a 6.7. That's a second faster in that, simply from the training, simply from the coaching, simply from him putting in the effort, having a plan, and then executing that plan. He was here for a solid year, right? From August to September of 2018, right? And his test scores, as I can see them, but just continue to go up, right? That's how he gained confidence. That's how he bought into himself. He loved baseball. Obviously, he still had to play the game, but exactly what he said. He said, my coach signed me because of my speed, and it's something that athletes, they can teach, or they can learn. It can be taught. It is something that can change your athletic career, but you can't just guess at it. Like, it's not just gonna happen. You can't just, browse over the little things and expect those changes to happen. But again, that's just one thing, and we'll have him on the pod at some point in time because he's a cool kid. And he was able to do the things that everybody dreams of doing.
Yeah.
Right. Sure, he didn't make it to the MLB. He's not playing in the World Series. You know what I mean? But he went to school. His school was paid for, which is all that I care about. Right. I care about the kids going to college and get their school paid for, because I understand how impactful that is for his life, because now he graduates college. He can start his life. He's not in a bunch of debt. Like, he's getting to live life at a younger age. He just got married, which I think is a beautiful thing. Like, he's doing all of those awesome things that you hear in life. And it's like, dude, like, because he decided that he was going to do it and he went all in on it and did it. Like, so that's success. Like, that is a success story. That is something that I think is amazing. And I want to highlight every single one of those kids and motivate other kids to do exactly what that kid did.
Sean?
Yeah. So, kind of there's a lot of kids who have been around pretty much since I've gotten here that if I thought about it, I'll start thinking of more people. But one kid I want to highlight is Colton Glenn.
Dog.
Yeah, that kid's gonna be. He's a 8th grader or 7th grader right now, I think. He's seventh or 8th grade. He's 7th or 8th grade, I think. He might be 7th grade.
Charlie too. Charlie also.
Both of those kids have been around pretty much since I got here, and I know you worked with their older brother.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and he was a starting center this year for Eisenhower.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. But Colton, man, and then obviously Charlie too. But
Charlie's got cooler hair.
Yeah,
it gives him points.
I was getting to see the success that like Colton had on the football field this year, because like great parents. We've had
Rocky's awesome.
Yeah, Rocky. We've had him help us out on a few things. But just getting to see his stuff, like, because in class, he's just always one of the just quiet, works hard, does, very coachable, listens, and you can just tell he gets stuff because he works at it and he's focused every single time he comes in here. And he's had I think it's a little bit better now, but he had this like knee issue for a long time, some sort of I think it's a growth plate thing, which he was like working through as well while he was in here. But yeah, just seeing the videos of him just going off against these kids, just scoring touchdown, like couple touchdowns a game, and he's like playing like the tight end wing back or something, but, he's getting jet sweeps, he's getting screen passes
Getting
out
the
to him.
ball. That's the
But
position.
yeah, pretty much, and you get to see, like, him put into action everything we've been working with him, like, there was one, he, like, got a jet sweep, stopped, turned, reversed field, scored the touchdown. And then just seeing him, like, go slow, 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 and accelerate, hit the burst, and then just pull away from everybody. I mean, just because he comes a lot, he gets all the obviously, he puts in a lot of work
Mhm.
himself, and clearly on the football field, he does too. But just getting to see it, watching him utilize all the stuff we've been working on that football field, and just had a really awesome season this year. So I want to highlight him and just remember the name because he's going to be a beast for sure.
Yeah. He's super disciplined for his age. Definitely, and those are the things that I think if we started breaking down kid by kid and looking at stuff like that, those are the things that stand out to us is, the work like ethic and, the level of discipline, but concentration, focus, like all of those things are the things that we see. And I'm not saying that young kids have to have that all figured out by any means, but
No.
those are the things that help them stand out. And those are the things where it's like, okay, like this kid's gonna get it, and when they get it, then it's gonna really be special. And that's where you see some of that stuff kind of really come together and cultivate on the field because it's like, wow, why is this kid just? I mean, he just seems like he's light years ahead of everybody else, and in some aspects, he is. And he's not like some mate, like he's not a monster kid. Like he's normal size, I think, for his
He's
age.
probably
Right?
a little bit bigger.
Maybe
Little bit bigger.
slightly above average in height, but like size wise, like I don't know. I mean, he just works hard.
But yeah, and he
that's
puts in
the piece of
the
it.
work when he's here, and he puts in
Yes.
work on by himself, and then he
Mhm.
goes out and goes practice and he does his thing. So
Just grinder. Maybe
Yeah.
he'll be a tight end.
maybe,
Well,
Maybe we'll go to Iowa.
yeah,
tight end you.
tight end you.
Oh, dang.
Funny.
Well, boys, let's wrap this up here. I know we have different levels of Parisi that we can discuss. We'll probably break out and do something, with the pillars that stand out, just to discuss that and I guess further. But what's some closing stuff you got for today, Wichita Parisi wise?
Well, I think getting to hear the inception of it all, which I've had conversations with Sheldon about before, but I think just from the way the company itself started, and really the culture that got started from it with Bill himself.
Out of a van?
Out of a van, yep. Just going to parks with a big white van and asking if they wanted to try it out.
Give me your kids.
I know, yeah.
Can I train your athletes?
Yeah, it's always a funny way. You can't do that anymore these days. But it is cool because I think that's the vision that maybe he didn't even realize it yet then, but that's the vision he had when he started that and making sure to help youth athletes to high school, to college, whatever, all over the world, which is what he's done. And then hearing obviously there was a little bit of a foundation to work off. There was the system, there was the education, but then, Sheldon starts it here basically with no base, nothing, and he's got to go do it all. So it is cool to, after you hear coming into Parisi and you go to the certifications, you go and learn about how the company itself started and hearing like how much work Sheldon had to put in to get this thing off the ground and with the help he had, of course, with Brian. But just to hear the kind of the parallels between those two stories is pretty cool.
Yeah, definitely. I agree.
What about is that your sign off for today?
No,
Oh yes,
sorry.
yes. Success.
Nice. Man, this is some activity from Sean. I like it.
Yeah.
This feels good.
He's lighting up. He's
I
passionate.
know.
The
This guy
passion
woke
came out with
up.
some of those questions.
Yeah.
Earlier we
down.
had my name's Sean. Now we have my name's Sean.
What's up?
What's up? Let's talk Parisi.
Yeah,
Love
see,
that.
he
Love
gets
the
like a little
energy.
animated.
Yeah, for sure.
But no, kind of in closing, we kind of stopped the timeline, I guess, at the old facility and then got off on our tangents today, which is fine. Just to close that portion of it up is we were over there until It was just after 2021, right? Is when we moved over here.
We're entering year 3, so
22, 23,
Yeah,
24.
right before I showed up.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So then we move over to this facility, and for those of you guys that don't know, here we've said it on the other ones, much larger space, 17,000 square foot indoor, full of turf, all of our stuff, and we just got
built with
an
these hands.
seriously a full playground of things that we can at our disposal to help athletes, and that's kind of where we are now, and that's kind of why this thing is growing the way that it is with all of the different teams and different things over here. And I think we'll get into probably the next pod of like the move over here and then what happened then, because I think that's a whole story in itself of kind of talking through just all the different things and that transition and all of that stuff. But you know, we were very fortunate, and that's kind of my finishing piece to this would be that without our community and without the people that are in this community trusting us, none of this would be possible. We got all the pieces on the back end, and like we had to do the works and do the stuff and that type of thing. Ultimately, I just want to say thank you to every family that I've had the opportunity to get to know, every athlete that I've had the opportunity to be a part of their journey. Because, and most of you will tell them, I talk to them all the time. There's plenty of people out there that do this for themselves, and there's plenty of people out there that want to use these athletes to try and create a platform for them. And you can ask anybody that's ever worked inside of my umbrella of things, like that will never be what I'm about, and that will never be what we do. And my athletes, and you're going to see a lot of them on this podcast because we're reaching out to some of the old ones, and we want to get them on here to tell their story, not because it's about ours. And I cannot thank them from the bottom of my heart for trusting me, giving me the opportunity to pour into them. And I know that that takes a lot of trust. I am a parent, like I have kids, and knowing that if I'm putting my kids' future into someone's hands, essentially, there is an immense amount of trust that goes into that. And, I'm not perfect. I haven't done all of them right. And there's not a way to do it. Like there's some of them that, I wish I could have done certain things differently, or I would have seen something earlier, or, something like that. Like I can always get better in my systems. But the reality of it is like I've given them all of my energy that I could. And I want to continue that process and continue to keep helping. And without that, trust from the families that we've had thus far, we would not be able to do the things that we're doing right now. So, I commend them on that, and thank you very much for that. And for all the ex-athletes that are done playing or not playing anymore, I appreciate your guys' work and ethic and what you did along in the journey. And I hope that we motivate them enough to want to give back to the game, right? And want to give back to people that are still trying to do it, in the next generation coming up, and the people that are, still chugging along in it like we are. And, so it's a big thing about being selfless and trying to give back and doing those things. So that's what I kind of want to finish with. I appreciate that, and appreciate everybody that's been along for the journey. I appreciate you guys coming along as well, because there's some trust in that of, kind of saying you might be a little crazy, but I'm gonna go ahead and go with you. So that's, kind of been what it is.
Crazy?
Yeah. No, I'm saying I might be.
Oh, he's crazy. Okay, I miss.
Yeah, there you go.
He's the idea guy. Just try putting it together.
Oh.
I just leave it. That's on me.
That's
Okay? All right. Well, we're going to kick this over to Sean for our closing prayer. Thanks everyone for joining us.
Yes, I wanted to read from Hebrews 12 as we talk about enduring and working through certain struggles. And anyway, I'll read it. Therefore, since we are surrounded by so great a cloud of witnesses, let us also lay aside every weight and sin which clings so closely, and let us run with endurance the race that is set before us, looking to Jesus, the founder and perfecter of our faith, who for the joy that was set before him endured the cross, despising the shame, and is seated at the right hand of the throne of God. Lord, thank you so much for the opportunity to work with families, work with young athletes, and run our race with endurance to serve them and build our relationship with them and build them to be not only better athletes, but I pray better humans and harder workers and build their work ethic, their focus, their energy, and hopefully that stems to glorify you down the road and as well as in the present as well. So as we continue along this journey, just Lord, I thank you for your grace and your mercy to allow us to do this. And thank you for all the work and the outreach that has been put in by everybody in this room, but also everybody who's not in this room has helped us in the past and in the present now, and the families as well with us. In your name I pray, Lord Jesus. Amen.
Amen. Well, that's it for episode 8 of Parisi Speed School. Join us next time. Have a great day.